and welcome to The Public Good. This is Deja James with Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, uniting over 380 partner organizations to build a better Buffalo-Niagara region. It's great to see you all. We took a little bit of a hiatus. As you know, it has been the height of election season and election primary. By the time you'll see this, the primary would have been over. We're actually recording this on primary day. So we hope you went out and voted. If not, you're going to have another chance to vote in the general election, and that's why I really want to bring the guests that I have here today on, because PPG recently released a Buffalo in Transition series, which are policy recommendations for a new mayoral administration, whoever that may be, and policies that they should be considering to really actually better the community and solve some of the problems that we've had in Western New York for the past few decades into this new century, to be honest. So I'm really excited to learn today, or for you all to learn today, about vacant land use. And if you want to reference the paper, it is on ppgbuffalo.org, but we're going to be using that as a basis for our conversation today. And I just want to read a little excerpt from it very, very quickly about what the current state of vacant land is in the city of Buffalo. As the population shrank in Buffalo from about 500 to 600,000 residents in 1950 to 274,000 residents in 2023, Buffalo lost much of its housing. Between 2001 and 2017, the city demolished over 5,900 residential buildings, and today there are around 15,300 total vacant lots in the city of Buffalo, and over half of them are owned by the city themselves. And there's been a really large issue of people not having access to be able to develop those vacant lots and be able to make new housing, make community gardens, all of those different things. And so I'm really excited to be joined today by Grassroots Gardens of Western New York and Eastside Stewards to talk about vacant land use. But first, I want to introduce our intern for the summer, Madison. Go ahead, Madison.
Hi, I'm Madison Sierra. I am an undergrad student at Buffalo State College, and I will also be the summer co-host with PPG podcast, so very excited.
Thank you so much, Madison. And now I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. Tim, I'll start with you, Grassroots Gardens. Can you explain a little bit about Grassroots Gardens and yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Timothy Chen. I am the executive director at Grassroots Gardens of Western New York, and without reciting the mission statement, in a nutshell, what we do is we work with community groups, schools, churches, block clubs, to help them build community spaces that become gardens. This might look like a vacant lot at the end of the street that is full of trash that the neighbors want to clean up. It might also look like a school courtyard that the teachers want to build something for the youth to be able to participate in. So it varies. There's a wide spectrum, but what we do is provide all the materials, try to remove all the barriers, cover the administrative things like insurance, leasing land from the city, negotiating with council members to try to basically return ownership of these spaces to community members.
Absolutely. And we have two folks from Eastside Stewards, so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tendaji Ya'Ukuu. I am one of the co-founders and the community and planning director for Eastside Stewards. We are a community organization and workers cooperative that works with Eastside residents to transform vacant lots into community assets. So whether it be the revitalization of neglected green spaces, developing on unbuilt lots, green workforce development, and even equitable resource distribution, whether it be food, housing, energy. We just want to work with residents across the East Side and then beyond to be able to provide sustainable resources and community building opportunities.
Awesome. And Star?
Thank you. My name is Star Funderburg. I am another co-founder with Eastside Stewards, also the communications director, and I'm just excited to help and assist in any way I can with Eastside Stewards and revitalizing the spaces on the east side of Buffalo. I'm born and raised Eastside resident, and that's pretty much was my motivation for joining and being a part. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Madison, I'm going to have you ask your first question for the guest today.
You got it. Okay, so my question was directed at Tim, but I think we could all speak to it, which is you spoke about the need for community having control over their land. So if you could just speak more on why the community agency is so important when talking about addressing food insecurity, environmental justice, and neighborhood revitalization all at once.
Yeah, I mean, land is one of the most important, maybe the most critical form of capital for things like generational wealth, right? Things like being secure in one's own home and community. So that's where a lot of our work stems from. 30 years ago, we had a number of residents. At that point, it was mostly Lower West Side residents who basically formed together and said, we don't want X, Y, and Z in our community. We don't want the dumping. We don't want the vandalism. We don't want the tall grass that the city isn't mowing, right? And it was very much per our name. It was a grassroots effort to basically take these spaces back. We say they're city-owned lots, but they're also public land, right? These are land that are owned essentially by taxpayer dollars. So there should be a benefit there. And land also offers all these different opportunities, whether it's a communal green space that doesn't even grow food, but provides that mental health benefit of having a pocket park so you don't have to take a bus to Delaware Park, or growing food, right? Or building housing, affordable housing for people to be able to be stable in. All these different aspects are really critical. And I think, our organization, Eastside Stewards, and many other organizations try to touch on different aspects of this. And then I think another piece of it in terms of equity is if you look at the history of land ownership in the U.S. in particular, how land was seized, right, from different populations, especially given the history of slavery, Jim Crow, and then you get into redlining that is kind of, hand in hand with a lot of urban renewal work in the 60s and 70s. There's a large portion of the population that hasn't had regular access to land. So that's something that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And Tendaji and Star, I'm wondering if you guys can comment, especially on that last part of, land, especially on the east side of Buffalo, has been taken from us in a lot of different ways. And even redevelopment projects aren't necessarily, under the guise or leadership of the community itself that's on the east side. And so I'm wondering, with your initiative with Eastside Stewards, how is that so important for the community to be taking their power back and for them to be the leaders in what they have a say in what's happening with the land around them and that's in their community?
I mean, it adds to the biggest part for me that I notice is going to add to their mental health. It's going to improve their way of life, how they see each other, how they work with each other for every generation. So I think that's really important to make sure they have a voice, to make sure they're seeing what's done and they have a part in what's being done in their home. It goes back, I remember a great-grandparent telling me that, you can't sweep in front of someone else's doorstep until you check your own. Mm-hmm. So they're here, this is their home, making sure that they have a part in that as well.
Yeah. And I think especially like operating on the east side for decades has been disinvested in. And to add on to what Tim was saying, redlining has deeply scarred the east side of Buffalo, whether it be denying historically black residents of the east side, home loans and building the Kensington Expressway, and compounding on what it means to own land, but also be at greatest threat of environmental degradation. So it's deeply important for us to, when we're doing this work, we're prioritizing the voices of people on the east side. It's not necessarily like that Eastside Stewards knows best, but is that the community members inherently know what they need. So it's important for us to understand those needs and then be able to build off of that.
Absolutely. And I love that you say that the community members, they already understand and know what they need. And I think there's a misconception that, when I look at those troll comments on social media, it's like, oh, well, they just don't care about their neighborhood and they don't know what to do with their own neighborhood and everything like that. But when you think about the actual resource deprivation of there's 15,000 vacant lots that are taken from community ownership and community power. And that's the actual landscape we're looking at, and not people just not caring that there's a vacant lot next to them, but them actually not having the tangible power to do anything about it or ownership of that land. That it's the modern day redlining. It's that thing. It's not, redlining isn't just this historical word that we use that doesn't exist today. And I think a lot of the topics and, especially from civil rights era, people think, well, that was in 1965. That's not right now, right? And these are topics that are right now, and are happening right now, and affect the way people are able to take care and engage in their neighborhoods. I'm wondering, for you, particularly in the programming that you're doing, what type of programming are you doing to help re-engage people into their neighborhood? And that's for you too, Tim. And how are you actually going about doing that, getting community buy-in, getting resident buy-in, and helping them re-engage? Because I find a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with even trying to make a community garden, or block clubs have tried for years to do different things, and then the city says you can't do that, and then they mow it over or whatever. So how are you all going about really empowering residents to feel like, no, we can do this and we can actually participate in our own neighborhood again? Just wondering about both of your programming.
You want to go first? You want me to? I can start, and please, you all should definitely chime in, because I know you all have, in a lot of ways, like different and also more kind of in-depth programming than we do. So Grassroots Gardens, we work with over 100 community and school gardens across Buffalo and Niagara Falls. So we're a small organization, we're stretched thin, and that limits kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis with each individual garden, right? We can't be there watering, mowing for them, pulling weeds, and then knocking on doors for all these neighborhoods. What our model is really run on is it needs to be a community-driven effort to come to us or hear about us and reach out to us and say, we want this, right? We have the people who are already interested, but we need your help. We want you to come in and help us out. Our model is really driven on community decision-making. None of our spaces are kind of a top-down model where we go in and dictate rules, aside from like, hey, don't grow in the ground because there might be lead and asbestos. But it's all like the community decides where they want the beds, what they want the space to look like, how they want to share the food, what kind of events they hold, right? All that is based on decision-making that community leaders facilitate among their neighbors. So that's a really critical piece. I think the second piece that we really focus on is we want to sustain these spaces. We're not just trying to build new projects for the sake of doing something new and flashy. It's really important that community gardens that have existed, right, we are a safety net, our support network for them. So when there is a little bit of neighborhood instability, when people are renters and they move around, and some people are maybe a little more elderly and aren't able to move 2,000 pounds of soil on their own, right? We bring out support to make sure that those spaces continue to exist as community anchors, as spaces that both the gardeners that establish them, but also people moving into the area can continue enjoying. And so I think, our programming looks very different based on which garden is asking for our support. It might be volunteer groups. It might be helping them organize and host an event, right? Whether it's yoga in the gardens or a little concert or whatever the community members would like to see. And we try to make sure we're adapting to what we're asked to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think for Eastside Stewards, to speak on a piece of like residents feeling disparaged and even getting started or knowing how to fight for themselves or advocate for public land. I think for us, it's been, someone taught me a term recently, civic imagination. What we're trying to do is really show up every day and do the work so that people can see that this is possible. I think especially on the east side, it's similar to how I grew up in the South Bronx in New York City. People don't feel that they have the capital, the resources, the hope, the community to be able to build out projects like these. So it's vital that when we're showing up in community, we're showing them that this is possible. Right, regardless of who owns the land or regardless of how much resources you have or how much capital you have, this is possible. Even Eastside Stewards, we got started with $0. And we've been investing as a organization, co-founders, investing capital in this work. So it is possible.
Yeah, I love that, like the collective ownership and like of community coming together and saying, no, we're going to do this thing. I think that's a beautiful model of yours. And I think there's a misconception that Black people don't care about environmental issues or don't care about land issues or things like that. So I'm just inspired by seeing you two young, Black, beautiful people doing this work. And I'm just wondering, if I could get a little personal for a second, how you personally got involved in this work, and what it kind of means to you. If I don't mind me asking, you said you're from the South Bronx. You said you're born and raised on the east side of Buffalo. What made you interested in doing an initiative like this? Like, I'm just curious myself.
For me, I mean, there's a number of reasons, but I think the biggest reasons would be I was raised in Kensington Bailey area, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for a little bit, had a family there, and we came back, and my daughter, I want to say she was 8 at the time. We were driving down Bailey, and she's like, "Mom, why is there so much trash on the ground? Why does it look like that here?" So that's one thing. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to her about how, we have to be more involved in the community, and even if you don't see what you want to see, we can still make that difference ourselves. Mm-hmm. So she was really interested in wanting to clean up. So when your children want to do something, it kind of prompts you and pushes you to do it. Also, meeting Tendaji. I met him after working with Open Buffalo. And his spirit, he really had a different spirit for helping the community. I mean, I already wanted to, but he was serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he did the work himself, and you know how you can just tell someone's energy to where it's a good fit. Mm-hmm. You want to do the work, but you can tell, okay, I can work with this person, they're dedicated. So it was that. And that's pretty much what prompted me to join Eastside Stewards. And like he said, when you see someone in the community doing the work themselves, it makes you say, hey, whether I have no funds to start it myself, whether I have the resources or not, whether I see someone else doing it, I can do it too. So, he's out there doing it. I love the motto of Eastside Stewards. I love how we go out and talk to community members. We go door to door. We survey. We see what do they want to see in a community garden. How can we better assist? How can we better support them? And if we can't support them in Eastside Stewards, we can partner with other organizations that are doing the work, and we can be the bridge. Mm-hmm. So, it's seeing people that look like us, seeing community members. It's one thing to see someone outside of our community doing it, that's fine. But people within our community need to see us doing the work, hot in this weather, low funds. They need to see us doing it. So that's pretty much my why.
Okay, Tendaji, Mr. Visionary. What?
Oh, Lord.
You from, well, listen, because I'm trying to see, like, from the South Bronx, coming here, what made you feel like I need to invest in this community? I need to sow my vision here.
Yeah, I think that there's so many parallels between the South Bronx, where I grew up, and the east side of Buffalo. We're both predominantly communities of color that have, for decades, been disinvested in, and have decisions made over our heads. Whether it be the Bronx burning, because they're literally trying to get insurance money from dilapidated buildings, from the east side, where they're literally destroying, like you said, 5,000, thousands of buildings. And I think that a part of it is like, there's something that needs to be done. There's a need. And I've always been someone who's like, if there is a need, if there's a passion, if there's a drive, then why not?
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I'm so inspired by you all. I love when I have guests on that kind of reinvigorate me a little bit. Because sometimes you do this work and you just get so tired, and you feel, and to your point of, because it reflects what you said, Star, of like seeing our people do it, and, sometimes I'll be in, movement spaces, and there's not a lot of us, and it's not our fault. Like, it's like, we're kept from certain spaces in certain ways, or they don't want to hear things in a real way or whatever. And so I just appreciate spaces like this, and that includes you, Tim, from Grassroots Gardens, because I feel like these more community-based initiatives, they don't have a scheme or agenda behind them. It's just a real space where people can come and have an honest conversation of, this is what's going on in our community, this is what we need, and activating a place like Grassroots Garden, like, okay, here's the resources, do it, or if we don't know where it is, we'll find it, and we'll bring it to you. And sometimes that's what we need rather than just, oh, well, let's give it to a developer who's then going to somehow trickle it down to the community at some point, right? And I say all that to say, because I'm about to segue, I promise. The city has announced a new program, and the city's tried to launch a few different programs to help with vacant land use and different things like that. We've been subject to multiple national studies about how deteriorated our city is. But they participated in a particular program that's going to help them offer 51 city-owned lots in the Hamlin Park and Maston Park areas. And for people who don't know who that is, or you're watching out from Buffalo, those are Eastside-based communities, to help community redevelopment of those spaces. They do use the word developer in here, but they do say that they want it to be community-based developers or community-led development projects. And then on top of that, they also are looking at a citywide homestead plan to sell eligible vacant lots. What eligible will mean, we don't know yet, for just $1,000 to help families. So you could potentially get a vacant lot for $1,000. I'm wondering if something like that, from on the face of it, was successful. And just to update folks, that's not officially in place yet. They're announcing that plan to then be voted on and approved by council, which will probably happen later this year. So just to say, this isn't an announcement that you can go to City Hall right now and get $1,000 lot. You can't do that. So just hold on a second. But I want to ask you all if this seems like a promising policy in you all's eyes and your experience and your expertise, and then maybe going into what you would like to see the city doing based on your experience so far. And I'll start with you, Tim, about that announcement, because we talked a little offline about this announcement as well, but wondering what your initial thoughts are on something like this.
Sure. I think it's a start. I think it's the start of some policies that have been pushed for a long time, not just by Grassroots Gardens. One of our focus, like I briefly mentioned, is really protecting long-term spaces. And if they're sold off, right, they become bulldozed. Someone builds maybe a cookie cutter building where a green space initially was. So our goal of protecting those spaces, hopefully we're a step closer, right? Nonprofits can't just pony up, especially on certain lots that have, now risen 10 times in value compared to 10 years ago. We can't buy that and protect those spaces. And so $1,000, it's still money. It's money that nonprofits are maybe more able to raise. But I think you hit the nail on the head, is like, what does it mean to be eligible? What are the qualifications going to be? Legacy lots, right? How long have you been taking care of it? How long are you going to be required to be taking care of it? We don't know the answers to that yet. I just looked at the city website yesterday, and there's an RFP for the Hamlin Park development plan, which is more infill housing from what I understand. There's not anything about buying actual vacant land for, the homesteading part. That I think people who want to create green spaces, grow food, the work that we're doing, that Eastside Stewards is doing, that has not been defined. So once again, I think it's a start. I think we'll see maybe in September when Common Council hopefully votes on this, what it looks like. And it's encouraging, because I think it's been years of groups like PPG, like Grassroots Gardens, like other community groups, right? Fruitvale Community Land Trust, Push Buffalo, saying, hey, we need more progressive policies to be implemented, and really not hearing anything for a long time. So I know it's election season, and there's a reason we're hearing a little bit more now. There's some pressure, and I think it's a great time to leverage that.
Yeah, and I mean, to the point of the Buffalo in Transition series in general, it's like, it's pressure because of election season, but it's also just a really pivotal election that we haven't had in a long time, where it's a whole new stock of potential leadership, right? In some ways, because some people have been there for a long time, but we won't get into that. But it's a new opportunity. And so what are we going to do with that opportunity? Because we already know what the problems are. What are we going to do to fix it? And whoever ends up in office has to be able to take responsibility to do that. I want to ask Tendaji and Star also, because housing is a real problem, especially on the east side of Buffalo, affordable housing and all of those things. So for a lot of these plans, a lot of the times prioritize affordable housing, but why should we be thinking in tandem about community cleanups, green spaces alongside concurrently with housing at the same time? Because obviously we do need more housing, but that shouldn't neglect the fact that we need to take care of our parks, make sure people have open space, make sure people have access to green space and things like that, because we really do have a deficit of that on the east side of Buffalo in particular. So just wondering your thoughts on the kind of balance between housing and prioritizing green space as well.
Yeah, I think in terms of housing, I recently spoke to someone from Habitat for Humanity Buffalo, and we were having a really deep and informed conversation around what it means to do urban planning in a smart, equitable way. And I think a part of it is like building housing, building affordable housing, especially for first-time home buyers, is incredibly important. But we can't just have houses. Mm-hmm. We have to live in whole communities where we have affordable goods and services, where we have green spaces where we can grow food, where we have community spaces where we can, throw a birthday party, a wedding, baby shower. It's important for us to be able to have communities that look like the needs and desires of actual human beings. And for a long time in Buffalo, the strategic planning department has been favorable to developers. There's no doubt about that. And many organizations that have been paving the way, especially Grassroots Gardens, have been denied access to opportunities to develop on land, to build out community gardens, to build out community assets, when that's exactly what Buffalo needs. We're waiting for these magical developers to fall out of the sky and invest in Buffalo. And they don't exist. Mm-hmm. But what does exist is community power and the desire to make Buffalo better.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought it back to urban planning, because that's huge. I mean, I think a lot of the redevelopment processes now, it is just like throwing up a apartment building or whatever. Nobody's thinking about green space. Maybe some of them have a rooftop something, barely. And so where are we going to go? Like, we can't just be, even New York City has, like Tim mentioned before, pocket parks and other things like that. It has to be an intentional choice, and I'm not sure some of the developers that the city's been going with so far really consider that. And if they are, some of the newer development projects that I know of that have green space, I'm gonna just be honest, like, I don't feel welcome there. Like, it's usually not for us. We can't go, you know what I mean? Or you looked at funny if you even line dance a little bit or whatever, do stuff that we usually do, as a community. And so it's about obviously purposeful urban development and redevelopment, but also purposeful placing of green space that feels welcoming to all people and that serve our entire community as well. And we already are reaching the end of our show, so I'm going to stop talking and let Madison ask our kind of surmising question. I want to make sure we end on a high note, and Madison's always so chippy and chipper, so go ahead, yes. Madison, with the last question.
You got it. Okay, so for all of you guys, just looking ahead 5 to 10 years, what do you see the Buffalo landscape looking like in terms of food access and just community power?
Yeah. Hopes and dreams.
Yes.
I'm starting. Great. Haven't hoped and dreamed quite enough. I think there's so many wonderful organizations and groups and people trying to work on this right now and working on this. Like, I don't want to say trying, I guess people are doing the work, right? I think policies that Deja brought up, for example, are those hopes are that, Grassroots Gardens has been around a little bit longer, but we want more organizations like Eastside Stewards to be present. We don't want the city to throw all the things to us, right? We think there needs to be so many more organizations doing the important work that you all are doing, that other food access and environmental organizations are doing. And there's plenty of space, right? There's 15,000 lots, like you said. There's plenty of space for housing and plenty of space for that quality of life that Tendaji was talking about. So I think we should be hopeful. We should be optimistic, because unlike a lot of cities that are densely packed, there's no space for imagining something better. We've got the space, and we've got relatively affordable space compared to a place like New York City, Boston, Philadelphia. We've also got models of cities that have done something with these spaces, right? Places like Detroit are a couple years ahead of us because they had so much population loss. Places like Philly, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Baltimore, all have models that we should learn from, and we hope that City Hall will look to them and take the best parts that worked, right, and put it here. It's an investment in the community to kind of curate and protect and steward land. And we know how to do it, and we know the ideas that are out there, and we just need the powers that be to trust the community members.
Absolutely. Tendaji Star, what do we hope for the East Side in the next 5 to 10 years?
For me, I mean, I want to piggyback off of what you said. I think the great thing about these different groups that we're working with is there's a lot of collaboration, and you don't usually see that. Going to the Juneteenth this past Juneteenth, in the agricultural pavilion, there were so many different organizations represented that were working together, just pulling each other's resources, seeing, okay, you're doing this, how can we work together? So my hope and dreams is that I already know that's going to multiply. The collaboration is going to multiply, but with that, you're going to different parts of the city, especially on the east side, and you're seeing no vacant lots. You're seeing the greenhouses, you're seeing the veggies, the different gardens, and people are using them. You're seeing children that are creating art for these spaces, and the people are using food if they need it from the gardens to take back to their home. And hopefully, I mean, this is a huge dream, on every porch you see a mini garden. You know, on the windowsills you're seeing the rosemary, the different herbs, things like that. I mean, that's a huge dream, but hey. But also, especially on the east side where we have mostly people of color, they're really tapping into their heritage and how we did use the land and we did use what we can grow ourselves. There's a lot happening right now in the White House, and I hope that people are inspired to tap into what we can do ourselves with our hands and with seeds. And yeah, that's what I want to see.
Love that. Tendaji, any last hopes and dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. We dream the same. I would say definitely the political will to let go. Like, again, like continuing to hold on to land that could be utilized for public good needs to end. I feel like it's an apartheid. It's a public land apartheid. We need to end it. And I think that, again, like seeing every single vacant lot, the thousands and thousands of vacant lots on the east side that are left in despair and neglect are actually used as community assets, whether it be sustainable housing, community renewable energy systems, used as a community garden, or whatever needs and desires there are for that specific space, for it to be used for what the community wants.
Thank you so much. I invite our watchers or viewers on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're seeing this, to also comment what your hopes and dreams are that you would like to see in the city of Buffalo for our vacant land use, for green space, for third spaces, and all of those things. We thank the guests so much. Thank you so much, Tim, Tendaji Star, for coming on the show today. Thank you, Madison, my co-host. Thank you so much. This has been The Public Good, and from Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, uniting over 380 organizations to build a better Buffalo Niagara region. We are trying to lead the way and give Buffalo in transition policies best practices for a new mayoral administration to truly consider community-based policies to fix the problems that have lasted decades in our city, and we hope that they consider those policies. If you would like to read more, please visit ppgbuffalo.org. This one was on vacant land use. There are 8 other papers that are released, and we will be having subsequent episodes coming out on those topics very, very soon. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.